Here we are, hitting up events, drinking our way through Chicago beer, and trying not to miss a thing.
Yeah, because, the cork popped out, boom, it flies like fucking 10 feet. We're like, yeah, let's do it.
All you have to do is add some fruit, stir it up, and ride that milk-shaped wave.
Whenever I see him, I gotta take a photo with the most decorated brewer in Chicago, Jonathan Cutler.
It'll be like the stuff you hear. You ever go to, every time you go to Floyd's, all the music sounds like this. Raw, raw, raw.
Sometimes you want a small beer, but really, you want a big beer.
You gotta take in all those big aromatic hops.
Hey, what are you doing this weekend? Waiting in line for a bottle release?
You should have never been a fad. The black IPA is delicious.
Hey, and welcome to Chicago Beer Pass. I'm Brad Chmielewski.
Brad, what's up, man? I'm Nik White.
And we got our first guest in the studio here, right?
Yeah, our first.
Oh, no. Second.
Second. Around the Bend,
Yeah.
Dan was our first guest.
That's right.
That's true.
But I'm the more continuous guest, right?
She's leaning into that championship of like being the return guest.
Yeah.
That returns
If you're not watching the video and you listen to audio, it's Afro.Beer.Chick.
Hey, what's going on? It's me.
Welcome
Yeah.
back, Shalonda. How are you?
I'm great. A little buzz, but I'm great.
Oh, nice.
Shocker.
I gotta catch up then. I am not gonna catch up drinking Fader. I'm not gonna take a lot of Fader.
Yeah,
Very
I'm saying
fast.
A lot compared to what we drink.
Shotgun a few Faders and just go.
Maybe for the last time ever, we're drinking Fader on this show.
Fader is fading away.
Yeah, we heard some sad news last night that Fader is leaving. We did not buy. You didn't buy enough Fader,
It's all your fault.
and it's gone.
Yeah.
Not mine, but all y'all.
So any Fader that's currently out there is like the last run. We saw cans at the Half Acre Brewery that, they still they're not just going to get rid of those cans. They got to fill them up and get rid of the beer.
Yeah. I would see this beer. It's the only Half Acre beer. Well, I saw Bodum on billboards too. But Fader just felt right at festivals, at stadiums, just as a casual beer for all occasions.
Yeah.
So I'm slightly disappointed that Fader is leaving.
Are
Right.
you really?
I'm being for real. Being for real. Because from Half Acre, since they're such a hot forward brewery, the fact that they led with this Fader as one of their flagships, I thought was like a nice nod to them just trying to be a can that you can find everywhere in Chicago.
How many times did you buy Fader?
I think Brad, I thought Loose Keys brought up a good point last night when we were at Half Acre. He's like, listen, the reality is if you see Fader next to Bodum,
You're always going to get both.
you're always going to get Bodum.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the people have decided as well. So
And so Fader's getting replaced with a lime lager.
Green Torch.
Green Torch.
Green Torch, that's right.
And
The old
we were
Green
talking
Torch.
to the hospitality person about this, and she was saying that
Was it Katie?
I believe it was Katie.
she was saying that they looked for what was like a hole in their lineup and a hole in the market. Breweries do lagers, and there's breweries that do better lagers. Like Fader is great, but there are better lagers. So
And then, part of the issue, we were at Rev today. Part of the issue is, I think, whether you're on the AB side of distro or the Miller side of distro, a craft lager isn't going to make its way too far in a distribution chain, right? Because most distribution chains are dominated by Miller or Bud. So the first thing they're going to push, no matter how good your lager is, the first thing they're going to push is fucking a Miller or a Bud product.
That's true.
Right, and if you're at the point where you're deciding just a macro lager, are you gonna be like Fader? Like, would Fader stick up there with like a Miller Lite? If you're just like,
it depends.
There's room for that.
if you're at like a game and you're just like, get Miller Lite.
It depends on where you are in your beer drinking phase. Like, for instance, like if I was to go to somewhere and they had Miller Lite or Fader, I'm going to go with Fader. But versus someone who's not into craft brewery, they may go with Miller Lite. So it depends on what type of beer drinker you are.
Beta Bra had the same fate. Beta Bra would go hustle and get all these bars to agree to buy their beer. The fucking the distributor rep will come down and he say, listen, I know you agreed to buy this Beta Bra, but I got this left-hand Pilsner and I'll give you triple the left-hand Pilsner if you don't buy the Beta Bra. And then he's like, well, fuck it. I'll get,
which they're not supposed to do.
I mean, but you know what I mean? But this is the world we're in.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of shit you're seeing in the lager game.
So Half Acre is doing this lime lager. This will be their first fruit adjunct kind of IPA lager, they never did anything like this before. They did it in their stouts, right?
Now, what did you guys think about?
This was the pilot run, so it's a trial version of the Green Torch.
But it's pretty close to what it's supposed to be.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
It was fine. Like, I had the one, or actually I only had half of one because it warmed up too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in all fairness, we ended up doing a tour, so we had to set our beers to the side. By the time we got back to it, it had warmed up. So for me, I said that it gave me apple juice vibes. It was like you said, it was fine. But they, in their defense, they did say that they were still tweaking it. So I would like to see what that.
And we messed up. Like, I was really enjoying it until I
yeah.
wasn't drinking it.
Yeah.
And then I came back.
The jury's still out.
So right, we need to
we
go back and revisit. So I'm going to give it. It's not a fair assessment right now.
Yeah, we didn't give it its proper. We didn't give it a proper taste.
But it's going to be year round. It's not even like you think lime lager. You think summertime.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But it's going to be year round.
Yeah, I give Half Acre a lot of credit, man. They keep it moving, you know, whether it's Fuzz Country or Waybird or Fader, which doesn't seem like it's that old, or fucking Green Torch that's coming out. They don't play any games. They don't waste time. It's go. It's
Right.
green light go.
And you mentioned the Waybird, which that's a new beer from Half Acre that's going into the year-round lineup. And that's what this event was. We were there last night, the three of us, and just checking that out and checking out the brewery.
Yeah.
6.5%, right?
Hazy IPA.
Yeah.
You know, so you get to Half Acre and they have their glorious wood-centric tap room. And this party, when you walk in, you hang a right and go directly into the brewery.
Right, where the Big Hugs party could have been. Should have been.
Both shoulda and coulda been.
Shoulda, coulda.
We showed up early, you know.
Yeah.
We
Shoulda and coulda.
We showed up early. Us being the unofficial Half Acre podcast, we were very excited to be at this fucking thing.
Yeah.
We got our first pour out of the can. They give you cans, they give you wristband, they give you cans of Waybird.
Right.
Fantastic
Koozies. 16-ounce cans, but it'll be in 16 and 12-ounce cans.
I mean, they set it up for this release party, which honestly I was a little bit shocked because again, this is my first party I was ever invited to far as Half Acre, and I guess I wasn't really expecting this. I mean, for me, I thought that this is something I would have expected for like a Bend Grill Out, something like one of the bigger releases, but I can kind of understand in a sense why they did that because it's their first hazy IPA. But yeah, I mean, it was a fun time. You know?
So what are the flagships now? We talked about this there. I know, well, the top of the food chain is Daisy Cutter.
Daisy Cutter.
Quickly followed by Bodum.
Yeah, which
And
is
then-
now also now Waybird, which is a all year round.
Waybird is
special.
year round, and Pony Pills.
And Pony Pills.
Yeah, so that-
And then they
that's-
said Green Torch was year round, but that doesn't make sense. I feel like it's still one of the year round seasonals.
Yeah,
But
so there's year round.
maybe we were mishearing.
No, they did say it was going to be a year round.
Yeah, they said Green Torch was because Fader was a year round, and now Fader's out and Green Torch is in
Yeah, it was replacing it with the
as a
Green Torch.
year round. Yeah, I mean, you know, things get this is a 5 o'clock start, right? No one's had dinner yet, so things get a little hazy. You
Right
know,
off work.
This is drunk history version of the
drunk
Haymarket,
history version.
the Half Acre Waybird release. You know?
I only had one Waybird that whole night for that party.
Yeah?
I ended up going to that Phase Country next.
Fuzz Country.
Fuzz
Fuzz
Country.
Country.
Fuzz Country, a new winter release. No,
Was it? It came after the 10, which was their winter IPA.
10 was a winter IPA, and Fuzz Country is a wheat. I think it's like a wheat pale.
Yeah, maybe it's.
Now, I did enjoy the Fuzz Country. It was a very easy sipper.
It was
Clean and crisp.
yeah, it was good. You know, what's funny about going back to the Waybird, I enjoyed the flavor of Waybird drinking it out the can, and I was questioning whether like how hazy is this because it didn't taste particularly juicy.
Yeah.
But then we saw people walking around with
Glasses.
glasses of it, and I'm like, oh, this is definitely a hazy beer. So it's Half Acre's take on a hazy, where it's I wouldn't say it's necessarily juicy like hazies to be. It's cloudy like a hazy, but I think it kind of drinks more like a
An IPA that's hazy. Like
Yeah.
You got to flip the word. Like it's not a alarmist, juice, and it's
It's
any
not
of those.
hazy in the sense that we know hazies to be locally. It's
Yeah.
not Old Irving. It's not alarmist.
Yeah, but
It's-
Tim did say they did that intentionally.
Yeah.
So like if you hadn't had this conversation with Half Acre, you'd be like, okay, is this really a hazy? But he did say they did that intentionally so it wouldn't be like overly juicy. So when you go to drink it, you get the layers of the flavors, but it's not like you're drinking orange juice.
Yeah, exactly. You get a lighter body, and you get good flavors.
It almost seems closer to the Neon Bear from Goose Island. Like
That's
they call it a hazy, but
Yeah.
it's sort of just an IPA.
I'm starting to think the hazy is just a name because
We're starting to see hazy. Well, you can't call it a cloudy IPA. We talked about this last night. You can't call it a cloudy IPA because no one's going to buy a cloudy IPA. So it has to be called a hazy IPA. But we're starting to see the hazy as a category just kind of taper off and just be more practical, right? More drinkable. Like I could drink a couple of these Waybirds. I mean, how many? As much as I love Beezer, am I going to drink it with food? Am I going to go back for a second and third one?
Right.
Even if it's good, it's kind of dense.
that's true.
So.
But it was a good night there. We got the tour. We learned about an event coming up in the spring that they have a sticky bock, a stick bock.
Springbok.
Springbok. I was thinking sticky fat.
Wasn't that a restaurant?
No, Sticky Fat is the black IPA. It's it's their version
I'm
of
thinking about sticky rice.
Sticky rice. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, a Springbok.
A Springbok. Yeah. Shout out to Sticky Fat though. Probably the greatest black IPA there ever was. Because it was their version of a Harvest Ale, but it was a black IPA with fresh hops.
Yeah.
Springbok, and this event's going to be called Half Acre Beer Time. I think it's called. Just kind of like a classic. Isn't that what he said?
Something like that. It's
Yeah, it was
basically
like
some
half
sort
a-
of spring party that's gonna
Yeah,
happen.
basically so bocks are traditionally a lot of people brew bocks to welcome the spring. Like Capitol up in Wisconsin, they brew this bock. They throw this huge party out in the forest, and it's kind of like a bock is a beer you brew to welcome the change of seasons. So from winter to spring. So this is like a classic. This is gonna be a classic German beer party
Right.
in the spring at Half Acre.
Post St. Patrick's Day.
So is this like their version, another version of Far On Away?
Far and Away. No, there's all like
I
local.
just asked it because I haven't checked.
Because Far and Away was the breweries Far and Away. These are all going to be local people, right?
Yeah, Far and Away was like their version of like getting all their cool friends from out of state to come all be together at one party. Yeah.
That was a fun party.
Yeah. It was. What other random things did we learn that night? Oh, Half Acre was the first craft brewery in Illinois to can beers, the first one to do 16-ounce cans,
Yeah.
and the first one to do the Tech Pack snap top thing, whatever.
Yeah,
that-
man. Gabriel gave the tour. The founder of Half Acre gave the tour of Half Acre, which was pretty amazing. We never saw that. So cheers to him. And he talked about their journey from Wisconsin, where they used to contract brew and people made fun of them, to going over to Lincoln, where they were doing like 15,000 barrels a year, to this place where they're doing closer to 60, which is on par with what Goose Island was doing at full.
15 years ago
Exactly.
when
yeah.
Half Acre started.
Yeah. So, we just get to see this Half Acre journey, and Gabriel's kind of telling you, like, these are the things we've noticed along the way. And he's leading us through this tour. I like the phrase barley tea, that when he describes it. He describes the
I was
wort.
thinking, my man, like, what the hell is barley tea?
I'm like,
And then
Gabriel's-
once he got to talk, I'm like, okay, now I'm following you.
You gotta let him cook. Gabriel was a fun tour guide, man.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. Oh, my big takeaway was that so Gabriel got his start in Colorado, and I think he was blowing glass, and he was making these glass. He was blowing glass,
As a profession.
and he would trade glass
With the Avery crew.
with Avery for beer. And then he says something like, "Hey, you don't have to, your personal life and your professional life don't have to be separate. They can all be one." And he kind of figured that out. And he was an art student, and how art and beer were always kind of the connection. Being an art forward brewery was the focus from day one. And that was something I remember him saying at the fucking
Way bird back.
yeah. So that was dope, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was cool.
Cool. And then we closed out the night drinking some Benthic. We had
Wait, Cherry Benthic.
Cherry
was
Benthic.
the shit.
Cherry Benthic.
So, and we talked about this, man. Shout out to the whole Half Acre crew. We had a good
Yes.
time, man. Gabriel, Kevin, Heather, we one of the guys that just started who used to be a tuba player.
Oh, wait. No, let me speak on this. Let me speak on this one. So Chicago Beer Pass is out here changing lives. So someone I think his name was Kevin. Okay, well, if I got your name wrong, I'm sorry.
It's been a week.
This young man walked up to Nick and Brad and said basically that he started working in beer in Chicago because of them. So Chicago Beer Pass is out here changing lives. So congrats to you guys.
I tell you, the doors to the church of Brad and Nick
are always open.
Are always open.
Can I get an amen?
Amen, sister.
So he was a tuba player, and now
I thought he was fucking with us.
He can basically now he makes money, and he can do tuba on the side.
Yeah, he can drink beer, make money, and still play tuba. So you guys
Thanks to
are out
us.
here multitasking people's lives.
It was fun.
Congrats to you guys.
It was a good night.
I'm so happy for you.
Yeah. The other bit of news we did hear then was On and On.
On and On Part 3. So
3 and 4.
3 and 4. So Part 1 was the epic fucking rye barley wine. No, rye porter. The first one was a imperial rye porter at Revolution. The second one was the barley wine at Half Acre.
Which was one was better than 2.
I enjoyed 1 better. 2 got better after like 6 months.
Okay.
Then I thought 2 was really good.
Okay.
It was so funny because I was having a conversation tonight with the Rev guys, and I have to be honest that the Rev's version was my favorite because we all know it was a porter, right? And we also know that I don't dig porters.
It was imperial porter.
I don't dig porters. I'm not into porters. So for me to say, "Oh, this shit was good," I was really digging it.
I was telling the crew that I thought the barley wine, the Half Acre version, had a ton of heat when I first had it.
Yeah.
And then it kind of tapered off after a while, and then it was just the second time I had it was just really fucking money. Yeah. So, but yeah, it was a slower build for me to get into it. In comparison to the Rev one,
right out the gate, it was there.
From fucking the minute you open it, you're like, oh shit, this is great.
Nice,
pillowy, spicy, it was good.
Cool. And then you two were at Rev just now because this new the last Deep Woods of this series, the
season,
season.
Last one.
Yeah, so
until the summer one comes out.
Right, until the summer. So the Deep Woods season, 2022-2023 season ends today with the release of Double Barrel VSOJ and Boss Ryway.
Okay.
Yeah, the return of Boss Ryway, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it always in the French oak? Or was it just oak?
I don't think so.
Because Boss Ryway refers to Whistle Pig Boss Hog, and Boss Hog is a bourbon, I thought. So I'm not really sure.
Because there was the Boss Hog version.
Well, once you start including the fucking the beers on draft, there's so many different variants on the Boss brand. But in cans, it was always Boss Ryway, right? Mm-hmm. And then Boss was always Whistle Pig Boss whiskey barrel.
Because I think on the bourbon side, we did a show with the Whistle Pig and the Rat.
Yeah.
Any good variants then?
Oh man. Okay, so I went around asking people what was their favorite, and the consensus was the apple brandy. For me, I want to go with the double barrel VSOJ because of the fact that it wasn't overly sweet, and I don't know if it's my older age. But yeah, so far the consensus was everyone that I asked was the apple brandy.
Nice.
So Abby was great to me.
Yeah, and they had the bar with all the variants pouring, but in the back they had 2 special variants.
Okay.
They were both single barrel. One was Riders Reserve Apple Brandy. The other was Riders Reserve Single Barrel. So basically, a Pappy Van Winkle version and a Apple Brandy version.
Nice. Cool. Yeah. So you were saying that it was packed for this release this time.
It's crazy. So I had gotten there right before Nick. And we kind of got there at the same time. And he was he's driving up. He was like, man, this line. And then the dealership, which is on Kesey, the line was to the dealership.
Probably 200 people in the line.
It was crazy.
And then they can only fit how many?
280, because when I was, when I was in, I was talking to Josh Deeth and his wife, and I said, what's the capacity of your place? And it was like 280. So like people
Dollar
were,
double that outside then.
yeah, people were literally waiting to get in.
I haven't seen Rev this busy since. You remember the opening event for Rev? The closing ceremony to Chicago Craft Beer Week one year was the opening to Rev Kedzie.
Okay.
And it was a Sunday, and it was nuts. And that's the. I haven't seen that many people at Rev since the opening.
Okay. Because man, it was a few times ago I went and it was at capacity, but it was like 5 people in line, sort of thing.
Oh no, this wasn't it.
This shit ran damn near to the Jewel Osco parking lot. Like it was really intense.
So he had to leave out, and by the time, because you know, I had to take care of something, but when he came back, there was still a line.
So I got there at 2, and that's when you had the crazy line. I got back maybe 4:10, and still a line. So I needed help getting in both times. Yeah.
So what made this one, I guess, so special, or why is everyone at this one?
Well,
Like
it's
it's
the-
just
it's
I
the last-
think it was the Pappy Barrels with the double barrel VSOD, and then you have the apple brandy. So I think it was a lot going on. So when I went around and I was just taking videos and asking people what brought you here, and a lot of people were like, oh, it's the apple brandy, and like that was like the biggest one, that was the biggest draw for a lot of people. But then you have people say, hey, I wanted to taste the Pappy Barrel. So I think that was the huge draw to get people in.
I think the word is out on how insanely good double barrel VSOJ is.
really.
I think the word is out on it. Yeah, even from I ran into Josh Deeth a little later, and he was saying like, man, we got the most wanted can in the world.
That's true.
This, today. It'll be different. It'll be different next week, but enjoy this because you see all these people. It's a packed house. There's 100 motherfuckers outside. He's like, we have the most wanted beer in the world today.
That's crazy because before that event, there's probably like 20 people that have tried this.
But let me tell you this: I had people hitting my inbox in my Afro.Beer.Chick email and my AG. Okay, and I'm not selling it, Ralph. So I just want y'all to know this: I'm not selling it. But they say, hey, I know you get Revolution's beer, and these are people who are like out of state. I was like, look, I'll pay you $200 just for a can.
The word is out. I think the secondary value on this beer, for whatever reason, the secondary value on this beer just kind of shot. The trajectory was really high, and people got excited about it.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and to your point, it wasn't even like this for VSOJ. It's pretty nuts. But
All right, well, I'm excited to try it here. You've both already dived in.
I mean, yeah. I mean, for me, I have to be honest with you. It's the double barrel VSOJ for me because, again, I don't know if it's the older age. I don't like a lot of sweet stuff. And this double barrel is a great balance. The Pappy and the apple brandy was a little bit on the sweeter side. It's good, but it's still a bit too sweet for me. But that double barrel is that perfect blend.
there was My Shift Gap was on draft.
Okay.
That was cognac barrels. It was
I
a
did have that.
barley wine and cognac barrels. And then there were these two, and then there were the variants, right? The sanctuary stuff, right?
Okay.
I tell you something, man, but when you drink you have all those beers, and you drink the double barrel VSOJ, you know you're drinking double barrel VSOJ.
Mm-hmm.
These other beers, I'm not going to say they all taste the same. I think they have similar notes.
It's hard to tell the difference.
There's there's a little more oak here. There's a little more sweetness here. When you drink DB VSOJ, it does all these different things, and you don't have to. If you had all the cups in a row and you drank that one, you kind of know it's just different from the other ones. It's just
Really?
a lot more layered than the other ones. I think
Okay.
that was noticeable today, after having like maybe 3 or 4 variants. Real quick, man, a pretty cool anecdote with Josh Deeth. He was saying that I told him, I'm like, this double barrel and the original VSOJ, I'm like, I haven't had this kind of high from Rev since the first VSOJ. And he was like, the first VSOJ was a mistake.
Yeah, that's what he told me as well.
And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, it was Snowmageddon, and they had an issue with the fermentation. So
Okay.
they couldn't ferment it the way they wanted to. So it got super sweet. and it got stuck at 10%. And he's like, what do we do? When we fix the fermentation, do we keep going? Do we ferment it? Or do we take it out now? It's already at 10%. And they're like, but it's super sweet. So he's like, well, fuck it, take it out, put it in barrels. And then that was the original VSOJ. But they didn't intend for that profile.
Interesting. Okay.
You know, I didn't know that story until today. So that was cool.
And these are full, the double barreling is actual same time in the barrels, where you have the Old Fitzgerald here, which was a double barrel, but it was sort of like a weird blend of.
It was like 4 blends.
I think it was like 40% of it
Was a double barrel.
Exactly.
And this is 100% double.
That's a fair. These are fair questions, and that's why I miss Rev hosting their calls, because shit, we've been pounding beers all day. Like I have no fucking idea what's in double barrel.
Now, when I walked around and asked people like, "Hey, have you had the Goose Old Fitz?" and they'll say yes, and I asked them, "What's your favorite?" They'll say the Revolution, hands down. Now, Old Fitz is good for Goose. It is. It's great for Goose. But is it going to compare to what Revolution is doing? That's the real question, and a lot of people are saying no.
I don't know. I don't know if it's how long it's been in 2 barrels. I don't know, because double barrel implies that we have a beer, it aged a year in a bourbon barrel, and then we put it in another barrel to get more bourbon character and to increase the ABV. In some cases,
Or it could be we blended 2 barrels together.
It's on the box.
Technically,
so it
right?
tells you how many.
No, that's
barrels.
Goose.
Yeah,
but
Goose.
what about Rev's version?
That's true.
Let me see. I'm gonna take my driving glasses off here and see if I can
Driving
read.
glasses. Oh my
See
God.
if I can read this shit.
Not the driving glasses.
Because I don't know.
But if this is this hot beer and everyone wants it and you can't get it, is the Old Fitz like just as good in that sense? It's like the Westy 12 kind of thing, where it's like, oh, Westy 12 is great, but you can get Rochefort 10 and it's like just as good for half the price.
That's the question. And again, this is the masses that when I was asking people at Rev, they were saying that they had to pick, they would pick Rev. Because it wasn't.
But that's if
comparable.
you have, if you
No,
if you're given both of them like
No,
in a on a
but what I'm saying is that they were saying that it wasn't comparable. Like they were
Wasn't
saying
comparable.
that Goose Old Fitz was good for it to be Goose, but however, it wasn't comparable to Rev. Again, that's what people when I was looking around getting my videos, and that's what they were saying.
I'll take Fader over all this bullshit.
You lie.
long live Fader.
Fader is fading away.
Premium lager beer,
Far and fading
motherfucker.
away. Far and fading away.
Okay.
You be drinking a lot.
All right. Well, that was a crazy back to back for you two. Any other stops or anything you hit up?
Oh man, shout out to the aforementioned Goose Island. They had a collaboration with Black Calder Brewing. It was somebody's pecan stout.
Okay, so it was a big brown
Thank
pecan
you.
stout.
Big-
So it was a collaboration between Sam Ross, who is the black brewer at Goose Island, and Black Calder.
Why can't he just
And
be a
it's
brewer? Why can't-
look, because
why-
we have to highlight that, okay?
Okay. Okay.
And it's so funny because they have stout in the name, but it's actually a brown ale.
Okay.
Yeah.
A brown ale. You talk to Sam. It's a brown ale that they blended with some Doppelbock.
But they call it a stout.
No. It's called a stout.
It's called a stout in the name,
Yeah,
but it's
called
actually a
stout.
brown ale.
Yeah, because it's like 12.4%.
Okay.
So shouts out to Black Calder. I've always really enjoyed their beers. Everything that I've had. There's this one beer that I had that Terry uses his grandmother in a church hat and some Jordans.
Yeah. So it got a conversation going about a mixed 4-pack and dedicating it to all the levels of people who enter a church.
So we were in conversation. I was like, look, you guys need to do a peach cobbler stout, okay? And then you need to call it, can I get an amen? You need to center it around the whole black church theme and call it a day.
All right.
It was. I was excited because it was a 12.5% stout. In air quotes. Oh, but it wasn't the Bourbon County recipe. We got to enjoy Goose, and we got to enjoy a stout that wasn't BCS, and then it used Blanton's barrels.
Okay.
So we got to, we smuggled in a Blanton's Gold and took some pictures with the source whiskey next to the beer. That was fun. And then I think what the brewer from Goose, Sam, was saying that, the Black Calder guys wanted to use brown sugar. But Sam was like, no, let's use a more expensive ingredient, like the Peninsula, the Mexican dessert sugar.
Okay.
Which is a little pricier and a little earthier. And
Since
it will come,
AB's paying.
exactly.
It's on your dime and your time.
Yeah. And then so they brewed it on the pilot system
Okay.
at Goose. Yeah. So not to be confused with the giant system because they're making a ton of fucking beers at
Yeah.
Goose Island. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of the pilot, we forgot to mention the pilot system at Half Acre
That's right.
that they recently installed.
Yeah. So they're getting to play with different yeast strains, and I think we asked Katie, like, hey, what's the history here? Did this pilot system come from somewhere else? So like, no, we ordered it straight from the factory.
Okay.
But yeah, I think they have like a, I don't know, 7-barrel system, and they're playing around with stuff because, they're on a 30-barrel system. So they're doing like a few thousand gallons of beer at a time.
Yeah.
When they ferment, And this gives them a chance to just be a little more nimble.
Yeah.
Our love for Half Acre on this show knows no boundaries.
Half Acre is cool.
so
I really enjoy those.
I had myself a good old time
I did
at
too.
fucking Half Acre.
That was a good time, yeah.
I think Brad was like, we were talking. So we're drinking Green Torch and we're drinking Waybird while we got there. We drank Fuzz Country, and we're just like, listen, these beers are great. Let's get something a little heavier for one round, and let's get the fuck out of here.
End up being 2 rounds.
So I asked Brad, I'm like, yo, Brad, do we go World of Bog, which is the Balcones barrel-aged barley wine, or do we go Benthic? And Brad's like, oh, you gotta go Benthic.
I was with Brad on that.
I was like, we were just here and you had Nitro Bog.
Yeah.
And I think I have a Bog in the fridge.
Yeah.
And I don't have any Benthic, so.
That's true.
So, which was the first Benthic that you put
The
out?
first Benthic was called the Sunken, I believe it was called Sunken Treasure or Sunken Voyage.
Ghost?
Sunken Ghost. So it was an extended age 2-year Benthic.
Okay.
Right. So Benthic on its own is coconut, coffee, imperial, stout.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the second one was the cherry, which I really did enjoy because of the fact we all know that cherry beers can either taste like cough medicine or it can be too sweet. Mm-hmm. And this was neither of that.
Yeah. It was more of the tart cherry.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was almost like a chocolate covered.
Yes,
fucking
it was like a
cordial.
dark, like that dark covered chocolate cherry candy where it's not, it's very well balanced.
It's fucking
That's
delicious.
what I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
And what my favorite lever that they pull on Benthic is like the base Benthic is coffee, coconut, imperial stout.
Okay.
But when they go vanilla, they pull the coffee out so you can taste the vanilla. And when they go cherry brandy, they pull the other ingredients out so you can really focus on.
Interesting.
You know what I mean? Like it's not coffee, coconut on every variant.
Yeah.
They switch it up. I appreciate that. Yeah. So.
Okay. Nice. Last week we were drinking the beer for lounging from Off Color, and I mentioned they were doing a beer with a restaurant. I couldn't think of it, but they were doing it with the dumpling place in Chinatown.
Yeah.
Famous dumpling place. And it's called Sai Fang.
That's how you say that? Yeah.
I believe so. And it's a black tea beer. Yeah.
Really?
And it was great. I went to the dumpling place over the weekend just to get this beer, and it was great.
What's your go-to dumpling when you go to this kind of place?
Which kind?
Yeah. What dumplings are you getting?
That day we got the lamb and coriander.
Okay.
We got chicken and dill, which was I think the best one.
Dill, that's an
Yeah,
interesting combination.
that was really good. Another chicken and mushroom. Chicken mushroom was really good. Then we got a couple other ones too that we got onion and beef. We've got fried on that one, and a vegetarian one we got fried.
I saw these pictures and I'm like, this is the restaurant fucking Brad was talking about last week. It was an Asian joint.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was
Yeah.
great. But I went for that beer, and then since I'm over that way, I decided to go to Mars. Even though we got the Mars over here in Logan Square.
The community of the future.
Right. But I went down to the Bridgeport one.
Right on.
I wasn't. It's been a while since I've been there.
It was packed. The amount of bikes parked outside was kind of nuts. And so it was busy. It was happening. They love their glassware there. Every beer has its own glass, different design on it. So you can just go through a couple beers and have photos all day. And so that was great. Had a wild ale. I think had a hazy. Maeve got a cocktail or something.
Because they're making spirits now.
Yeah. Oh, she got a CBD seltzer. That's what she
Yeah.
got.
Okay.
They got a lot of range, man. They're
Yeah,
doing seltzers. They're doing
Coffee,
They're doing coffee. They're doing beer. They're doing bourbon.
cocktail,
They're doing
cocktails.
vodka.
They're doing bourbon.
Yeah,
Okay,
they
I'm gonna check
source.
that
I think
out.
they source from 18th Street for their bourbon.
And they had a burger there that looked pretty good, but I was going to get dumplings, so I couldn't
Yeah.
get this burger.
I love the.
Now I want to try the dumplings.
Yeah,
The dumpling
right?
place.
Sounds
is
pretty
That's
good.
the best.
But I think we should go this weekend and
Yeah,
try dumplings.
Q
I'm not-
QXY, right? QXY
Yeah, I'm
dumpling.
gonna hit that photo and see where the fuck it is. I'm not against it. I like a nice dumpling. You know,
Yeah.
they're fun to look at. They're fun to pop. You know, and then they got this fucking fancy. So the beer, you can only get it at this fucking dumpling place, or what's going on there?
I think the Half Acre or the Off Color person said they'll be there for the next couple of weeks. I think it's like limited there, and then it's going to be everywhere. I think.
Okay.
So
Yeah. I can appreciate Off Color for doing stuff like that.
yeah, and that was great. And us not drinking Off Color very often, and
Yeah.
then being like, we did beer for lounging, which I loved, and then the Saifang, and it was like, oh,
Beer for dinner with family was like my favorite.
okay.
Yeah.
There was somebody with a red hat on the logo.
It was like the perfect dinner. Like,
It's fucking 12%.
although Predator Noir is like right up there as well.
Oh, that beer for lounging was great.
My all-time favorite Off Color beer is Fox in the Snow.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that. That's my jam. Yeah.
So
Although when we went and we did that bottle share and they sent us with like the various beers, it was fun just kind of going through that mixed pack because
I think the best thing they could have done was make their the size of their bottles smaller. They're glass bottles, but it's like a 275.
yeah.
You know, it's
okay.
not a full. What do you call it? 750.
So like that, I got old Baladin or a Baladin bottle. Of it.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
exactly-
That's exactly what it is.
That's exactly,
Okay.
yeah, it's that size. Yeah.
All right, nice. So yeah, I'm glad I stepped in at Mars. It was either that or Junior, and I was like, I'll do Mars again. And I noticed looking at their beer, I mentioned this last night to you too, that the prices feel like they have come down. I always kind of was like, Mars beer is way too expensive.
Jungle Boogie is a 4-pack for like fucking damn near $20.
Right, but I noticed
life.
everything was about $14 to $16
There you go.
for a 4-pack. And that could have just been at the brewery, but knowing that they're not supposed to have cheaper prices than
Yeah.
the store was like, oh, are the stores upping this now on them? Or did they actually lower their prices where everyone else is kind of raising their prices?
I don't know if we're like, are we frugal or are we really just like, or is beer too expensive? I can never tell
I
if
mean,
it's me, am I cheap, or do the beer cost too much? I don't know.
I think where we're at, first of all, okay, so we got to look at someone as who shops for the household. We're at the point where eggs is costing more than beer. And I think breweries are starting to take notice of that. Like, okay, are we going to really price our beer more than it costs to get groceries? So I've noticed across the board that breweries are starting to come down a little bit because they want to stay competitive, because they don't want to feel like, hey, people are having to choose between getting groceries or beer. So it's like, okay, you want to keep in line with what's going on. So they're going to have to come off those prices if they want to stay in the market.
It's intense, and then the grocery thing is very emotional. But then some people are just going to tap out and just go into another.
But
liquid
even
category.
like it was like in the pandemic, Gary Gully said the ingredients were costing more, so they needed to raise the price. But if they raise their beer $1, it's $3 to you by the time it gets there, because they raise it $1, the distributor raises it $1,
Right.
and then the store raises $1. So he's like, I don't want my beer to be that much more.
Yeah.
So it becomes like it's a game.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. What do? You keep it the same price and just hope people come to you to get it? Maybe, I don't know.
You can't keep it the same price because now you're gonna get to the point where people are not going to buy.
Oh, because it's cheaper.
I mean, because it's more expensive, so you have to come down at some point. You have to realize, hey, we're hitting a threshold where people are not going to buy our beer. It's between getting groceries or it's getting beer. And I mean, if you got a family to feed, you're gonna choose groceries, right?
Unless you're an alcoholic, then
I
you're
mean,
going.
right.
We're talking about dry January. There's a lot of alcoholics out
What's
here.
dry January? I'm just saying, but
It's for alcoholics.
Beer's liquid. It's liquid bread. I just didn't get that loaf of bread, and I got the 6-pack.
But yeah,
Got deli meat and a beer. That's a
breweries,
sandwich.
right? But breweries are now in competition, not with each other, but they're in competition with groceries.
Right.
Everything is more expensive. I do agree with that. So yeah, I'm not mad at anybody raising their price. It's a lot of pressure.
Don't say that out loud because
But
it's okay to raise that price.
But it's a lot of pressure. Everyone has to raise their price because they have to, but it puts a lot of pressure on the consumer. You know.
But we were talking the Goose Island beers that we're seeing a lot of sales on those because there's a lot of beer. You were saying that Fulton brews Bourbon County more than any
I
other
was
beer.
kind of surprised that they're brewing that the most.
Wait, so how much is this beer going for in the store? Because
What
I
are
was
you
talking
looking
to Matt.
This one?
Yeah.
Old Fitz 2-year barley wine. I think that's a $40 beer.
30, 40.
Yeah.
Okay,
And then,
so
so it's probably down to like 29
It's
now.
very possible, yeah.
at
very
some
possible.
point, someone said that they saw it for 60, and I was like, that's a tap out point because for me, if I'm going to pay $60, I'm going to pay for a bourbon and call it a day.
Well, that's Miska's charging 60.
Fucking
And,
Miska's.
well, no, I take that back. I was talking to somebody say they saw it somewhere for 80, and I'm like, you got to be shitting me for $80 fucking dollars? That's crazy.
You know, the old Luz Keys studio was like maybe 3-4 doors down from a Miska's. And
I remember that.
Miska's is this crazy liquor store that also had a bar. So sometimes I would get there super early and I would go to Miska's and get like a fucking Alpha King.
For $4.
But for some reason, this Alpha King was $4. But if you got anything else, this shit was like $14.
They were. They're like, look, we're gonna charge you and you're gonna pay for it. Call it a day.
I was like, let me get gumball head. She was like, it's $14. I was like, whoa, hold on.
Okay, I'll take that.
$14
Okay.
for gumball head?
It was so funny, man. But yeah.
That's crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Alright. So Fader's going away, and then also in the news was Fat Tire is changing the recipe and changing the design.
Now, Fat Tire, I feel like it was an amber ale
Yeah.
in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what it changed to.
It's now like I think it's like more of a crisp lager, pale, like a crisp pale, I believe it was.
So, which is interesting because just the other day I put on my Twitter about beers that are brewed for to be marketed versus beer versus quality, and then I've had a few people to chime in about the new Fat Tire release, and it's like, hey, I feel like this is being beer to be marketed versus quality.
But Fat Tire
You talking about
originally
New Belgium? But they're like a top 4 brewer in the country.
I know, I was just saying, but I've had some people chime in. So, I mean, you can always go to the post on Afro.Beer.Chick and you'll see it. But yeah, people's like, hey, this is being brewed to be marketed, not quality.
Well, I think the quality's there, but the marketing was probably like, we're not selling as much of this beer, so we
gotta
need
change this shit
to
up.
like people. Who's brewing an amber ale that you're buying on the regular? So they're probably like, okay, we're
That's the
gonna
problem
change
with-
this up and keep the name, the flagship name, because everyone thinks Fat Tire is the brewery. No one even knows it's New Belgium. Most people.
Honestly, at this point,
Even their festival, I think, might be called Fat Tire. The little circus.
Yeah.
The circus they do in the summer.
I think honestly, I mean, it goes back to what we were saying earlier. No matter what's going on, breweries are in competition with groceries. So it's like we're gonna find a lot of breweries trying to do what needs to be done to keep up with the trend and to keep up with the popularity. Because again, to keep their names out there, to keep the doors open, because they're trying to compete with the rising cost of living. So, I mean, we're going to find some breweries that's like some sucky ass breweries that's going to rebrand. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Finch come back again for the 15th million
The
time.
mighty Finch Beer Co.
But I feel like you're saying that New Belgium's a sucky ass brewery that's
I'm not
trying
saying-
to like
No.
make money on
Well,
people.
New Belgium, I think.
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying that at all.
No. Whoever bought New Belgium, right? I want to say it was Kieran. But
Yeah.
anyway, New Belgium is basically managing Bell's, right? Because Bell's sold
Yeah.
to Kieran, but it's managed through New
And
Belgium.
they have Bell's as an amber ale, right?
Yeah, so I think Bell's, as like a top 4 brewer in the country, was like, we need, like, we don't want to kill Fader, or in Revolution's case, we don't want to kill Ghost Ride the Kolsch. And instead of killing it, what do? It's like, oh, well, we spruce it up with a new fucking
They're gonna do what needs to
recipe
be
and
done
logo.
to keep up with the trend. That's what I'm saying. And here's the thing: is that necessarily a good thing? Because when you start keeping up with trends, that doesn't mean that the quality is going to be there. It just means you're trying to keep up with the trend.
Well, there's a ton of good. I understand what you're saying. I think there's a ton of good beer on the market that just doesn't sell for whatever reason. It just doesn't resonate with people. That doesn't mean it's not good. It's just that, hey, this company and this image doesn't resonate with me, so I'm not going to buy it, because the level of good beer is just kind of here, and everyone's making good beer. And some good beers are delicious, and they're just not going to sell.
But the amber ale, the Fat Tire amber ale, was a good beer.
Yeah, it was.
But they probably weren't selling it.
Yeah, I haven't
Not because it wasn't good. I think that's what I'm saying. Not because it wasn't good. It's just that it was just kind of not interesting and didn't connect with people like it used to. I think that's what I'm saying.
Honestly, I don't even think it's that. I don't think it wasn't because it wasn't good, and because it was a really good beer. I think again they're just caught up in at the time of living, of cost of living. A lot of breweries are getting ready to take a hit because again, people are going to have to figure out, hey, do I want this beer or do I need groceries?
But if they were worried about cost, they wouldn't have also spent the time to redesign all the packaging, all the marketing around it. I mean, that's a lot of money to spend on that. If they were just trying to be like, we're trying to save money, they would have just put a new recipe in the old Fat Tire bottle and just kicked it out.
Unless, again, you're trying to keep the attention of the consumers. It's that marketing trend is like, okay, we need to figure out what's going to keep and get the attention of the consumer so we can stay relevant in this industry. And that means that we have to spend more money on marketing to get our beer out there. Then it's like at some point they're going to have to realize, hey, we're going to have to take a hit. And then you're going to find a lot of breweries that's going to realize they're going to have to figure out where they can take this hit. You know what I'm saying? And it's not necessarily fair, but with the way everything is going up, someone is going to take a hit somewhere.
But it's not going up. It's really not going up. It shouldn't be going up. People are charging more for the goods that cost exactly the same on their end. So
I'm more partial to the sours from New Belgium. F10, F12.
These are going up because they're charging more. Yeah. They're not actually. It's not costing that much more to make the beer and ship beer, or any of the food. The eggs are a different story because there's other factors there, but
it's going up because of greed. Plain as
right. Right. So the marketing, like, of course, beer was always marketing. Like, that's the whole point. You didn't even have to make good beer. You just had to market beer. That's always been the case.
This might be, New Belgium is not independent anymore. New Belgium is owned by the Koreans or Japanese. Or whoever the fuck. Yeah. This whole recipe and can change might be from their parent company.
Yeah, it's hard for us to gauge this because I do not drink non-Chicago beer.
Yeah.
Almost ever, so I can't even tell you the last time I've even seen Fat Tire in the store, in the bar. There's also like number 9, like Magic number 9. I haven't seen that in years, and that was amber ale. And so it's like, I don't know. We are in a weird spot where Chicago beers are the focus, and you're gonna drink. So what's happening out in Colorado?
That's an interesting point because we as locals, we're gonna support our beer first, regardless of marketing. I don't give a damn if you have like the top marketing budget versus like a zero marketing budget. We go on what we know as our local beer. So yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah. So people who are upset haven't been drinking their beer haven't been drinking their beer in a long time just because you haven't seen it, and you've probably been drinking other people's beer.
That's
so
true.
If you're in Colorado and you're upset, then I can understand that.
That is so true.
Otherwise, don't worry about it and drink your local amber ale. All right. Anything else then before we get out of here, or before we record a video and open this double barrel? That's probably what we're gonna do, right?
Woohoo!
Shout out to Black Alder. Shout out to Goose Island because they are your rich drunk uncle. And they could have had anybody in there, but they had a super small crew from Grand Rapids, Michigan. That if you look at their Twitter numbers or how long they've been in business, they had no business brewing a beer on a that.
with Goose Island.
but Goose is good people and the beer is good. So I encourage everybody to go over there and get a pint.
I will say this. That's the one thing I do appreciate about Goose. I know people say, oh, they're a big beer, they're AB and Val. I get it. But when they always reach back to the smaller breweries and say, hey, let me help you. And they do it without the so-called notoriety. So I do appreciate that.
They trade off. The younger breweries ask Goose things like, how do I make a stout? And then Goose is asking them, well, how the fuck did you make this IPA so juicy? You know what I mean? Like there's a synergy there, and I can appreciate that from the 40-year-old brewery and the 1 to 3-year-old brewery.
Well, they also on the marketing side, they gotta make sure the beer people still like them.
And they
don't seem out of touch.
They gotta keep their ear to the street, as the kids say.
Into the ground.
All right, so that's gonna do it. Afro.Beer.Chick, where can people find you?
On all the social medias at Afro.Beer.Chick, or you can check me out at Afro.Beer.Chick.com.
What about you, St. Nicholas?
Hey man, you can catch me on the St. Bernardus beer label, or you can catch me.
What?
Or you can catch me on Twitter at Nicosio.
And I'm on Twitter at BRAD, Chicago Beer Pass, all the things, ChicagoBeerPass.com, episodes there. And we'll be back, not with Fader, but with something else.
Because it's fading away.
Cheers.
Cheers. I have changed your lives.